start the record right here.
Great, so you can share the recording. Brilliant.
That's right. So anyway, we're going to get underway here. This is I'll back up a little bit. And this is the VerbFlex and SEO session. And we're going to talk about VerbFlex and why I created it. And I was just explaining a moment ago that basically to turn your verbs into a reflex, we're going to talk about VerbFlex as it can be used by newbies. That doesn't necessarily mean somebody who's in an early phase of their Spanish learning, but rather just somebody that's new to VerbFlex. So just about all of this. But then we'll also talk about becoming a power user and using VerbFlex more customized learning. It's individual to your stage and your goals. Then we're going to get, as we're sort of starting to head down into the SEO, right above that we've got the three components of VerbFlex. VerbFlex has a portion of it which is custom HTML. It has a portion of it which is WordPress based. And then it has something that's heavy, it's custom Java code, which we're just going to refer to as the Beast. And the Beast was the first thing that was created, so see if it's even possible, frankly. Then we're going to go into SEO, and we're specifically going to use VerbFlex, which is in sort of a beta phase now, as an opportunity to look at SEO practices. And so we're going to actually take a look at an audit via Raven Tools, which is available to all of you for free anytime that you ask me to audit your site or to audit a competitor site. So anytime you need that, it's no skin off my nose, literally. So just come to me. Anybody that's listening to this recording, absolutely same thing. So audits, and we're going to go through what an audit is and which factors have to do with rank and which factors do not. Then we're going to take a look at a speed test via the page speed insights from Google. And then we're going to get into the topic of schema. And finally, maybe just a little bit of a discussion about sort of what matters when it comes to SEO. All right, so that's pretty much it for the portion of this, which is shown on the PowerPoint. And so let's go and take a look here at VerbFlex. Now, I'm not going to kind of go through all of the homepage, but just to say, obviously, we see copy and images here. And so I'm going to mention that just for the SEO. But let's get into VerbFlex itself. Now, typically, we're all used to seeing those conjugation tables in books or on resources like SpanishDictionary.com. VerbFlex
Our
is
Spanish teacher gives them to us.
That's right. Those terrible Spanish teachers. And what I wanted to do was bring sort of the age of big data to those conjugations. So I just did a quick search of the verb oblige, and it has all the conjugations available here on this left-hand side. And so this is the information right here that we typically see in a conjugation table. What I've done is two things to take advantage of big data. First, tie each of these words, individual words, because there's over 100 at times, different iterations, you might say, or different words within a single infinitive. In this case, it's oblige. That's our infinitive. And if you will, there's over 100 expressions, which is why mastering verbs is so hard, because there's so many variations. So anyway, I tied this into a database of subtitles so that it actually draws an example of an English and Spanish pair here and gives you an example of the particular word, verb, in this case, hablo, and one example. In addition, I've rated using a method which a BYU professor, Brigham Young University in Utah, uses, because he's actually published a book, which I'm actually meant to bring today, that's a dictionary of frequency. So this can help you understand, which of the versions of oblige you're most likely to encounter. In this case, it's kind of, probably no surprise that vosotros, when it comes to the present, is rated out of 12 11. So that's pretty low, you know, compared to some of these others. These ones are going to be very common and you're going to hear all the time. Okay, so that's how this is different. Now, as a learning tool, there is this little pencil icon which actually goes into that database that I was mentioning and gives you many, many other examples that you can use for your own learning experience. You can actually add up to 6, and some of these examples are going to be better than the others, and whether that's, you know, sort of learning basic usage or learning more advanced usage. And there are some of these English-Spanish pairs which are just going to suck. And when we encounter those, we have this over here where you can banish it. And one thing about VerbFlex is every time that we push something over here and update, that is essentially a vote, if you will, for that sentence, and that drives that example up to the top. So the more that it's used, the more intelligent that it gets over time. It's just a newborn now, so it's lacking experience and is not terribly intelligent, and you'll see that as you kind of get in there. But so those are sort of the basics in terms of, you know, what makes, you know, why VerbFlex and why it makes it, you know, a little bit different than what we're used to seeing. Any questions at this point? Okay, cool.
Where have you gotten your content from?
There is a huge database of subtitles, and as well as government documents and other translated. And it's not just English, Spanish. It's robust. And so that it's a free resource. It's available to any of us, and that's what I drew. What it was drawing upon. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So in terms of the conjugation tables and VerbFlex, that's the first part. Then when it comes to topics and tenses, now we all know the various not that we've necessarily memorized them all, but we're certainly aware that there are many tenses in every language. And in this case, I've created a page that's an index for all of the Spanish tenses, even some which are really not used anymore. But for those that are, there is a container here, and every container has 3 fundamental things. It has an article about forms and uses, which, for example, if you looked at the book like 501 Verbs for Spanish, or even on the internet, there's a similar type article right here. There is also, and so we'll just kind of take a look at it, and just in terms of thinking about our SEO lesson later, this particular page is on the WordPress platform and is just on a type of template that, you know, we might commonly find, etc. The second component of a given container, and this we're going to stick with tense right now, is the list. And so I used what we looked at before, we'll call it the beast, to create a custom list that has AR, ER, and IR example in regular form, and also 3 irregular verbs as well. And so that's all there. And this list, you know, we can take a look here at all of the conjugations. We can look at all of the sample sentences. We can look at the frequency, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then, so keep in mind, remember that list here, because all of those sample sentences that we saw are a part of this game. And this is a very simple game. And it's got all of the sample sentences there, which are, I guess, 26 in total. And basically, we're just provided with a Spanish sentence. And our challenge is simply to sort of fill in the blank. So we have the English translation. Dad, are you listening to me? And so Papa me, and we can say escucha. Oh, está, excuse me. That's going to be, in this case, está. Oh, I screwed up. Well, and so anyway, you can keep on going through this. Confusion alert, exactly. And see, I did get confused because of the formal. Yeah. Por qué no? Why don't they go? We'll say Von. Oh, good. Got one. Yeah. So then we can see up here, it's sort of keeping score. We've got, one incorrect. I don't know why it's saying 5. Interesting. This here is a plugin. This is something called Quizlet. And this is a very handy kind of flashcard type program. And so I basically just sort of added this in. This is not original VerbFlex, but just takes advantage of that. And there are several different study modes. This particular mode happens to be best for the tenses, but there's actually another one which works pretty well, and that's called the test. And then you get something that kind of looks a little bit more like what you might get in a high school exam with multiple choice, with fill in the blank, etc. So this one I'd say is maybe a little bit more basic, for beginners, whereas the first that we're defaulting to is more for advanced. Okay. Now from here you can always go back to the article. This little bar down here, lets you sort of toggle between. But the important thing really to keep in mind is that all of the tenses are represented here under the tense column. And so you can read about it, you can study lists, you can play the game in order to improve your skill with respect to each of these tenses. In addition, there's the opportunity here to export a list, and you can do so in various formats. You can also sign in and create your own little account here. I'm going to do. And so now I've gone from being anonymous to actually having signed in. And when we do that, then we get some more options here. In addition to exporting out that list, we can copy it to my list, which lives right here. And once it's over here in your own list, well, then you can modify it. You can come in and back into the beast area and pick new sample sentences. You can do all kinds of good stuff. So it's just potentially a starting point. I'm kind of varying a little bit. I'm getting more of the advanced stuff. So before I do, another sort of newbie area is here in topics. Now this, as opposed to learning the tenses, this is really a vocabulary builder. And so I've picked verbs that have to do, with these given categories here. Let's just kind of pop into travel for a second. And so basically there's just some information in this article about, those infinitives which are covered. Over here in view list, this is where you nav in order to look at the content and the example sentences, the frequency behind, each of these. All right, pretty straightforward stuff. So then these also have got games, of course, and these games default to that sort of secondary, you might say, format within Quizlet, because it's just a little bit different in terms of the nature of the study, a little bit more basic. And by the way, everything under topics is in the present tense. Everything's in the present tense.
Is there any sound or voice recording in part of
There is not. Maybe one day.
You had a little voice icon on the previous
there, and I'm glad that you guys mentioned that. That is something that is a Quizlet function, and you will get very spotty performance because within Quizlet you have to specify which language. So when you specify Spanish, then it reads the Spanish perfectly, but then it reads the English as though. Yeah, let me hit pause just so let me hit pause for a second. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Okay. Let me go back over
that
here.
Topic section.
It's
super helpful.
Well, good. I hope so. I've got one more thing to say on topics. So if we go to game, y'all show me where you saw that because I get to the point where I'm overlooking things.
Was there somewhere?
It does exist. Let's switch over to the. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Anyway,
well, that's in there somewhere. And yes, it is crazy.
Just try that customize your sources.
Right here? Any more questions?
I think it said like
Spell.
Spell.
The
We'll have to
Before-
clever find it.
Yes, you can have some fun with that. It's a nice diversion from your studies. One more thing on topic. So here, oh gosh, thank you. And we're back. Okay, so over here under activities, that's pretty self-explanatory. There's also a section called grammar in which we'll be adding sort of grammar lessons so that we can say, okay, which verbs behave like the verb gustar that we all know and love, and we can go into the list, and there's some examples here, and we can see. You can see here I'm taking advantage of the ability to add more samples so that we can see more persons, represented, if you will. And again, these also have, there's a game for this as well. And so you can do the same type of quiz that we have sort of for the tense in that case. And then there's one other thing under topics, which is just more of a miscellaneous category, which I'm calling challenges. And so this, like every time I'm getting ready to travel, I practice common formal commands. And so I sort of created this for myself, but I'm even imagining one where I have verbs which have different meanings in different countries, or that are even profane in different countries. And I wish I had brought it with me. I have a whole list. I've got, probably 24 different challenges that are kind of the nuanced aspects of mastering verbs. So anyway, and all of those too, we'll have a little article as well as the list and the game. Cool. All right. So that's for newbies. We touched a little bit on, when you become an advanced user, then you of course can copy, lists from these guys, and then you can do whatever you want. You can even copy that and do any kind of modification. You're like, well, how do you modify? Well, let me show you kind of the heart of the beast here. That when you get into new lists, you can do these different kinds of builds. So here we can say, look, I just want to work on, for example, a blot, and I want to work on mastering the difference between, say, preterite and imperfect. And let's go ahead and put in a blot here. And so this is just a filter that's pulling down all of the data. And just, this way you can then go back in here, export out a list, create a new one, and again, just kind of build out your own custom list for study. In addition to the infinitive build, which requires an infinitive, there's the range build. And it does not require an infinitive. Danielle had asked, she said, wow, man, I wish that there was a way that I could just study future imperfect forms of the future tense. Well, you can. And so we're picking a regular here. We've got indicative future, these 5 persons. We've got all of the AR, ER, and IR. The Vogue score is a measure of frequency, just real quickly. And so we'll say both reflexive verbs and non. We hit view build. And here we go. Now, by the way, VerbFlex has over 650 infinitives, and my goal is to get to 1,000. So this is not by any way comprehensive of the Spanish language, but these are those verbs which have those qualities of the filter. Does that all make sense? So anyway, you can create these cool lists, and I'll kind of kick over here to tutorials, which is not fleshed out, but I'm going to be providing more and more information about how to use lists in order to create, cool flashcard programs yourselves using Quizlet or other popular formats, so that, hopefully one day VerbFlex will be the point where you can create a list and then it sort of automatically has a game there for you. We're not there yet today. But what you certainly can do is take the list that you generate, put them into your, favorite testing platforms, and you're off and running. All right. This just to mention from an SEO standpoint, this is a function of WordPress here. Verb Rescue is just how basically users can help. users can adopt a verb. And so they can pick one of the verbs that are a part of VerbFlex. Let's say that you like comer. Then you can say, hey, Rob, I want to pick great example sentences and really, make comer sing. So comer is a great learning opportunity. You can donate a verb. That's basically saying, Rob, you don't have vestirse, which is true. And I'd really like to have that in there. It'd be great. I can send you a spreadsheet and we'll get that in there. Or, hey, send me some money. So anyway, but really the reason that I point all this out is just because, again, this is another page which is going to show up on our SEO audit. It obviously is very basic. This is an HTML type page, as is all of these. This is custom HTML here. This is custom HTML here. And of course, anything that you saw with respect to the filters, with respect to the beast, all of that is quite custom as well. So we're getting ready to sort of shift over to SEO. Any questions about VerbFlex at this point?
Not to it. Nice speeches.
Okay.
I have a question. I
Yes.
missed this at the beginning. Is this a free tool?
Yes, absolutely.
Are you planning to keep it that way?
Yeah, I've got advertising on it, which
I saw
everybody
it, yeah.
tells me that they never click on those ads, so I feel great about that. But no, honestly, this for me, and I'll just mention again from a technical standpoint, this is running AdSense. So if you guys have questions about Google AdSense, then we can talk about it.
So they match your vendors or whatever?
Yeah,
Or you
they're
don't-
looking.
you don't
I mean,
use
it's
them?
no surprise that this is in Spanish over here because we're in Colombia. I mean, I see a lot different ads here in Colombia.
Okay,
There's
got it.
a lot of remarketing.
Yeah.
So if you've been to LL Bean or something,
It's not based on the website, it's based on I think people.
yeah,
Right.
or your past
Nice.
behavior.
I was just curious how
Babble
you matched with them.
Yeah.
They matched
I started
before you,
practicing.
right?
I thought that was your feature.
Babble.
And I went off into
Yeah. Babel shows up all the time.
and it's really annoying because I found myself there. But in terms of lists, obviously your focus is verbs,
Yes.
lists of numbers,
Mhm.
lists of weeks, lists of
Yeah, because
animals,
that's something
lists
key
of.
searchers a lot. Because I'm sure
Is there, have you chosen
like
to
my
exclude
laptop,
those?
Yes, this is a verb
I get a
tool.
lot of exercise.
And so
ads, like it's like,
there's nothing having to do with nouns. This is purely to make verbs a reflex.
Is there a reason
Oh,
why
you
you
don't
went to
think about
open it up? Because that's often
they just
you're often
take
learning
what
those
you
on the
are-
side.
Well, those
whatever the person is.
those tools are
So
available.
what you
You know,
what he's
that-
seeing on this is not what you're going to see. Your laptop's going to show.
Now
you
I
this.
understand. Yeah, thank you.
But-
So okay, so your focus is clearly verb, and that's where you're going to.
That's it.
I
That
don't want to go anywhere else.
I don't. This is purely about mastering verbs.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. This is to turn. I basically had asked myself a question about 2.5 years ago, which is if I could dominate one area, what would it be? And it would be mastering verbs.
Yeah.
Making them a reflex. That's where the
Yeah.
name came from.
Yeah.
So that's all this is about.
Okay.
And so I really think that VerbFlex is not the first place that you come in your journey to Spanish. Duolingo is a good way to kind of get the whole broad landscape.
Yeah.
But then you start to learn where your strengths and weaknesses are.
Yeah.
And one of them is, eventually you're going to come to verbs. And just in the same way as you might buy the book 501 Verbs, you can come to VerbFlex
Yeah.
to master this particular.
Do you anticipate using spoken?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. One
Because I
day.
think hearing.
Yes.
is-
I'm going
is-
to hit
is
pause
key.
for a minute, but really the technology is not there yet. And I played with it even 2 years ago. And that's the thing is that, when we saw those, even those games before with the blank word, I wanted you to be able to just sort of say the sentence. And that's truly what makes it a reflex, because
Yeah.
there's muscle memory. So yeah, that's the ultimate ambition. But that what's here is hopefully getting it out there enough to where the intelligence takes over. So really good examples float to the top, and then I can just take that top 10%, and then that goes into a game like you're talking about.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Are there any other collaborative features? Can you make your own lists? Can you share lists?
not yet, and that is definitely the next step. Absolutely, that's
Because we can
Gonna
all
be the
work on
critical.
lists together.
absolutely. Or, Sergio, could create several lists and
Say this is your class
absolutely.
list. Off you go.
And hopefully most of the topics that Sergio will want and within 6 months we'll all be in challenges, all be in grammar. You know what I mean? So that stuff has sort of been pre-baked, pre-thought out. But no, I agree.
Yeah.
That's what I want, is ultimately for you to be able to send a link, and then that you send one to me, and then it's a part of my list. Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, thanks. Let's go to SEO, and so I haven't turned it back on again. Let me go. Okay, so good old Raven Tools. I'm going to turn this back on. Okay, so we're kind of wrapping up the VerbFlex part of it, and now we're going to talk about VerbFlex in the context of an SEO audit. And so that's basically to see, how healthy it is, how buttoned up it is from the standpoint of two factors, both ranking factors, and we're going to talk about what is and what is not a ranking factor, as well as just what makes for a website which follows good form and is organized. And so when different entities look at it, that it makes sense and not tripping over itself. This tool is Raven, and like I mentioned to everybody, this is accessible to you through me at any time. So if you want to check out your website or competitor's website and get a report card, just let me know. This is organized roughly from left to right in sort of what's important or what sort of a priority list. Although these two things have swapped in terms of some modern thinking, which we'll talk about in a minute. Visibility issues. You don't want to have anything that is blocking a page from being viewed, or at least a page that you want indexed from being viewed. So this part just gives you some visibility as to a URL that may have in this case, a not found status, and so that you can talk to your developer and ensure that anything that should be seen by the search engines is being seen. Redirects is just really just kind of that. It gives you some visibility in terms of anything that you have basically said, look, we want to make sure that this URL actually lands here. And so this is just a quick check to make sure that all of that is organized in the way that you intend. Over here, I'm actually going to hit content issues first, because content issues is, by modern way of thinking, very significant as a ranking factor. And so you want to avoid pages that are indexed, which have low word count, or where there is duplicate content. Problem here is that if there's low word count, Google doesn't really know what to do with it, because there's just not enough information to go on. If there's a duplication issue, then there can be confusion in terms of which of those pages where their duplicates exist should be indexed. So when we drive in here, then we can take a look at the given URLs in which a kind of a flag has gone up. Now, in many of these cases, they're really not significant. Like a contact page, I don't want indexed. A forgot password page, I don't want that indexed. And so what I need to do is to go in and tell my developers, or go into WordPress and basically say, Google, do not pay any attention to these pages. I do not want these pages indexed. That allows me then to focus on what matters. Now, there are two pages that do matter, where this flag is coming up. That's the topics page. We saw the travel, the sports and leisure, all that good stuff. And so there's really no text there. That's my bad. And I've got a sort of a plan for dealing with that in the future, and I should have thought of that to begin with. Same thing here on verb tenses. Just not enough copy to go on for Google to make any sense out of it. So this helps to highlight a couple of areas that are problematic. These other areas, my list, that's custom, not a big deal. Tutorials, not terribly worried about that. Verb rescue, again, not a page that I really want to rank on.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
From someone who is a lame person?
Sure.
What does Google look for? Because it doesn't look for all text.
Doesn't
it look for specific words that you... I mean, does it search everything?
Save that. Well, it certainly does look at all the content that's on a page. It possibly considers some of the meta content. That's the data that a user does not see, but that you assign to an image or to a link. That's called on-page SEO. And we are going to talk about at the end the specific ranking factors that matter today by sort of contemporary thought versus those that in the past have been focused upon.
Yeah.
In fact, even as if we back up a little bit, I said we're going to skip over the meta. Come on back. Okay, it's back. And so I said we're going to look at content because everybody, and this is for a long time, has always agreed that content is king. Now, for many years, people have talked about meta issues mattering. In today's thought, they say what's called on-page SEO, which is meta descriptions, the page title, that's the little blurb that happens up in the tab, that those really don't matter anymore. However, you really never want to put yourself in a position where you have a duplicate, because you're always creating an opportunity for confusion, either for a user or for Google. So duplicates have always got to be looked after. Meta descriptions, you'll see here that the meta descriptions which are missing are those that are custom HTML pages, not the WordPress pages, because the WordPress pages I can control as the user and go in and assign those through Yoast, right, or another tool, or just through WordPress itself. But on the custom side, I'm not a coder, and so these things have essentially been overlooked by the developer, and so I need to go in and explicitly say I need these meta descriptions to be put in. This is, in contemporary thought, good form. It's probably not going to impact my ranking. Okay. All right. So,
what impacts the rankings and the most of the content?
Yeah, the very last thing that we're going to look at, I'm going to show you a hierarchy from a 2017 study from SEMrush that's going to show you exactly that. Okay. So as we're kind of going through that, so again, duplicate page titles need to be avoided. Anything duplicate. This is good form to get this filled in, but it's probably not going to make a difference. Again, this is kind of a repeat here. The length of page titles, people honestly today are not paying any attention to that, part because the larger formats are now allowing for larger, longer blurbs, but honestly, it's not going to affect your page content. You just want this to be clear for the human users that may have access to this, whether they're developers, etc. Okay, so we talked about content. Now, as we move here, then we're kind of getting into some issues that are less and less important for ranking, but are important just in terms of keeping everything together. This indicates that there is, some things which are not hooking up. These are completely foreign to me, so I'm going to have to go back to the developer and say, sort of what's going on here. Makes for good topics of conversation. And here, anchor or alt text is meta descriptions for links, and again, doesn't affect SEO. It doesn't affect ranking, I should say, but can be good form just in terms of clarifying, what something does. Especially something like this. If this has a function, then you'll want to fill out the alt tag to remind yourself or a developer, what its job is. All righty. Image issues. Here, alt text again is just a meta description, but it's specifically for images, and title is just another opportunity to further define what an image is. In the past, there was some thought that this was important to ranking, but by modern thought, no. Okay, so that's the audit. We're going to take a look at speed next. Is there anything about these topics that y'all have any questions on?
So is that not so important now, alt text in terms of images?
It is not. It is not important in terms of ranking. It will not affect positively your ranking.
Right, okay. So I thought that was,
Yeah, and even back in the time when people said it would have an impact, you can see it was sort of on the lower end of the priority, because this was when these folks are in Nashville, and so I know who did this, and they built it so that as you go from left to right, that you're hitting it by priority. But things have definitely changed in the last several years, and meta issues, descriptions, page titles in particular, are thought not to carry ranking weight in the way that people used to believe that they did. And that Yoast, and others like that really sort of bank on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's get into speed, because speed is definitely a ranking factor. And so this is a terrific free tool from Google called Page Speed Insights. And all you've got to do is put in, by the way, this is not a website tool. This is a web page rating tool. So every page needs to be looked at that you are considering, for high ranking, or that you want to have indexed. And so this is, of course, always fun talk with the developers when you say, why in the world am I rated as poor on mobile? And thankfully, Google gives you some insights as to why that is. And you can, look under these and then hopefully pass this information along to your developers. And then as they resolve these items, if they resolve them, then this score is going to go up. In the desktop environment, which is a little bit more liberal in terms of its performance standards, this home page does a little bit better, still needs work. But again, the same sort of punch list of potential improvements is provided. Okay, so this is, again, the Page Speed Tools, or actually the Page Speed Insights tool from Google. So what I did is I looked at the different pages. We just looked at the home page. Here's an example of an index page. This happens to be the topics page. We've got poor performance on the mobile side. We've got fair performance on the desktop side. Over here, if this is an example of the WordPress, the WordPress portion of the site. Here you can actually see we're doing good. Yay! In the desktop environment, but the mobile environment needs a little bit of work. This is frustrating to me because, and Grace, you chime in here, I would think that something that's custom designed should be so efficient that we shouldn't be having this problem, whereas something in WordPress is made more for more general applications, and therefore you would have the expectation that something that's template-based would not be as efficient. So anyway, so just a little sticking point, but this is why you want to use these tools so that you can start having these constructive conversations with your developers.
You literally have to point it to every page.
That's correct.
Separately.
Every
You can't
page.
just point it to a site and then it can.
No, this is, and especially because I have several different technologies at work, including this one here. And so you can see here, here's the beast, which is, heavy custom JavaScript, and not doing too bad actually, but on the mobile side. And honestly, the beast is, even by its nature, not great on a phone. It is great on a tablet, but does fairly well, at least on on the desktop side. Okay, all right. So you guys can see what I'm fighting with the developers about right now. Okay, so let's talk just for a minute about schema, because in the same way that years ago that we were talking about meta in terms of page titles, and in terms of those meta descriptions or tagging images and links and all that, and really probably accurately believing that those things mattered, now schema is sort of serving that function. So Jonathan, you were just talking about, hey, do you have to do that on every page? Schema, not only do you have to do schema on every page, you have to do it on every piece of that page. And so as you go down a given page, you use schema basically to tell Google and Bing and Yandex that, hey, this is a recipe, or these are directions, or this is a product. And you keep kind of working your way down the page, and that then allows Google. Y'all ever do a Google search and there's just like a little snippet that pops up? Okay, so that's one of the reasons that they want you to do it, because if there's like a really specific question, not only does it show your page, but actually doesn't show your page, it just puts like that most relevant thing on top. So Google is moving more and more to that, which is why people are starting to talk more and more about schema. It is a meticulous discipline, and there are more and more tools that are making it user-friendly, because basically what you have to do is work your way down the page, highlight the section that you want, and then give it a designation, much like we'll go to real old media, like the old Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah.
and define those given bits of HTML code to tell Google exactly what that little bit is about. All righty?
With meta tags and meta, you are for every object.
You're helping.
What's the difference?
It's because, meta descriptions and page titles go in a specific place all the time. And schema is actually working its way down the page. So it's all over. And you can put in as much or as little schema all the way down the page as makes sense.
So Rob, because the way my WordPress backend is set up,
Yes.
it seems like there's only one option in terms of schema that you do it for the whole post, for example.
Yeah.
Which works for me because it would be an article, but you're saying if I had an article and half of it was directions and I also had a recipe in it,
You could do that.
theoretically I would want to go in, highlight the recipe portion and
That's
go
right.
basically code that,
Yeah.
like a better word.
And what you're doing is great. And there is that sort of top level. And so keep doing that, especially because you've got a good plugin which is allowing you to do that easily.
Yes. Yeah.
But the more advanced level is picking out, it's kind of like a little editor.
Gotcha. Yes. It's picking out.
That's
if
right.
you have a big long post, which is what Google's moving more towards wanting anyway.
That's
Very
right.
big, thorough, answer a lot of questions.
The length of content, and as we'll see in a minute, is getting more important. And so here, this is you can find all kinds of info, a lot of it extremely confusing, about schema.org. There's some good videos, by the way, on YouTube that explain what it is. But more importantly, once you really commit to schema, then you can take a look at some of the tools that are used in order to make those definitions within the body of your content.
Can you, as a third party looking at a website, determine what schema they have applied or not?
Yeah, because you could go in and use your editor, and the schema would pop right out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, in the same way that we could use Yoast to look at a page title or a meta description in that same way. All righty? Okay, let me take a look at our agenda here. Good, we're on the last item. So let's talk about, for a discussion point, I'm going to kick us on over to this little guy and a bit of an eye chart. So let me kind of blow up what might matter most. This is over here. This gets, oh, yeah. Back up. Okay. All right. Okay, so Isla, this goes directly to your question about what matters when it comes to ranking. And so let's just talk about each one of these. This direct website visits. So if you're going to ESPN every day, you know it, New York Times, Facebook, right? You just type that right in. That kind of action, that kind of user action is what has most weight. So, of course, there's a long road to get to that level of consciousness, right? But once you're there, those direct website visits count more than any other type of action. According to this is a 2017 study done by SEMrush, and I'd be happy to share this entire 42-page document with y'all. This gets just right down to the meat of it. The second thing is an engagement factor, which is time on site. How long is a visit? The third, pages per session. How many pages did they look at? The bounce rate. What percentage of people saw one page and left? Referring domains. How many people this is the whole link building exercise, right? That takes years. How many people love your website so much that they're willing to send a link to it? Mm-hmm. There's also factors to consider about, not just quantity, but quality. If a university links to VerbFlex.com, that's huge. And so that'll be a lot more than just, some link farm, operating, somewhere in the boonies.
How do they know if the person is referred? From the referral buttons you put on the website, or is it just...
There's even tools, even within Raven tools, that will track back referring domains so that you can see exactly who is linking to you. Like if I'm linking to your website.
Is that a permanent referral or just a share?
They can. There's nothing permanent about it. Somebody could take that down at any time. Yeah, but it counts it up, and so the bigger that number, then the more juice that you've got.
So, like, if I just share the link on Facebook,
that helps.
know?
It even helps if you share a link in like a little commentary area. Yes, that helps. Now that's going to have a lot less credibility because they know, like if I launch VerbFlex and then I get on every website I can think of and just start posting the URL, they're going to be keen to that. But if different training websites and universities and whatever, then that's going to carry a lot of weight.
And what's the deal with if you have a site, say, like let's say you refer someone to TripAdvisor, like as a travel blog, if they have this unknown thing, which I don't quite understand. So it was with referring with links that I was told, oh, you've got to be careful because if you give someone a link, they can take your SEO juice or something, and that there's other sites that.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, come then.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that. I'm not quite gathering it all together. On that, so content length is the other thing, and just as you were saying, now it used to be that all the copy needed to be above the fold. That's like 5 years ago or longer, maybe. Now people have gotten used to using their devices just to go like this. You'll even see like on blogs. You'll be looking at one blog article, you'll scroll, then the next blog article loads under it, and so anyway, so nobody is concerned anymore about, what above the fold is. So content length, when you're creating an article, it's not to say that you want to be verbose, but you do want to, try to be comprehensive, cover it all.
Because I remember initially reading ones like, oh, if you've got a lot, do a part 1 and a part 2.
Yeah.
Which now seems like, oh my God, I'm going to have to go back to those posts and turn it into one post.
Well, that's a good opportunity to refresh.
Yeah, to refresh.
Absolutely.
Which is another one
Would there be a different profile for consumer as opposed to business?
I mean, yes, I think that there's going to be nuances, definitely.
Yeah.
Like if you have a commercial enterprise, then especially if you're doing a lot of manipulation in order to drive traffic to you versus one you're sort of a hobbyist, but everybody's linking to you, and so you don't have a profit motive. Google has a way of sniffing that out, where the profit motive is and is not. And if there's content that does not have a profit motive attached to it, and people are interested in it, then that's going to pop to the top. Absolutely.
We used an app at one point, I'm sure, which kind of looked at hotspots.
Oh yeah, that's a great
where they went down up and down.
Absolutely.
What they did, it was interesting. People didn't actually go below the fold too
Yes.
much.
Yeah.
So they started lifting everything and simplifying it, actually reducing the content. It became very graphical and very simplistic.
Absolutely.
So is that just old school? Have we just not learned our lesson?
Oh,
I'd love for you to have a look
Yeah,
at
so
it.
Oh, Jake,
I think you'd have a field day, mate.
Sure. Oops.
Yeah.
Well, it maybe. Do you have a perfect site?
Do I have a perfect
That's what I
site?
was
Do you
gonna
have
Sure.
a site where you'd go?
Yeah.
This has all the
That
qualities.
has all of the components.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let me make sure we just don't leave.
We all
this.
know what bad looks like.
Yeah, I'll give you a real good example. Let's just finish this off real quick. Yes, I'll give you one that really went through a transformation here in a minute, and that's a great question. Some people have said that a secured site does better, and there does seem to be some evidence of that in this study. Under here is the stuff we talked about.
What does that mean, a secured site? Like, what have you done to your site to make it secure?
You've gotten that certification.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're looking for maybe a quick hit,
and all that sort of stuff.
I know. This sort of surprised me too. Now, there's a lot. One of this thing points out, oh, great.
Just like keywords are.
There's here, this talks about that, look, a lot of the very top rated websites do not have that, but still we can see that it's at least showing up, So, I mean, I'm going to sort of look into this after, since the studies come out.
So a good bounce rate is 49%.
I know, isn't that funny? I mean, a client would freak out over that, but yeah, that's what that's showing,
or less.
even in the top 3.
I mean, look, direct website visits is a kind of, let's assume that we would love to all be in that position.
Yes.
So
It's like, how do you get to that position?
How much of that drives the others? If you took that subset out, it'd be interesting to look at. Because not all of us can track traffic directly every day.
I mean, that's really an indicator of how hard it is.
That probably drives the time on site, the pages on session.
I'd say it's the other way around. That if you're building a site which is generating a lot of time on site, a low bounce rate, a lot of pages viewed per session, that's going to be a memorable site, and people are going to start going straight. So
that's the
I would start
place.
here. I would start here in terms. This shows good content. This shows that you're in a modern mode of PR. Building those referring domains, and then that is eventually going to, I would say, generate this kind of behavior. Which is what we want.
It kind of makes me think. I mean, I need to drive consumers to come in and do something like they do every day,
right?
Like browse to book a service,
Mm-hmm.
and then by their very nature of coming in and making an action, then we're going to actually attract them. We put some content around that. Whereas at the moment we use other devices to kind of do that sort of thing. So you've got to bring your business to the to the product, haven't you?
So what was kind of suggesting that you're better off spending your time building backlinks than doing loads of hours of keyword research.
That's correct. That's exactly right. That, in terms of a mode of thought, that is exactly right.
I used to do a lot of.
And good news, I would much rather be doing that.
I know, it's more fun. And it makes sense. It's intuitive sense, A backlink is a referring link.
Yeah.
When somebody's linking back to you. That's it.
It's not like then you're going to spend ages optimizing.
It's a referring link. The exact type of relationship that we were talking about before, when somebody makes a conscious decision to link to your website. That's a backlink or a referring link. It's the exact same thing. That's exactly right. And you'll see both terms used, which is confusing.
Change, you mean like multiple different things. Like for me, as a travel post, you have travel guide, itinerary.
I'm really interested in this. This is
I'm glad that you're like
actually redo the sentence. That is actually more often.
Really?
Thank you, Rob. I need to.
Sure, absolutely. I'm sorry it went longer than I expected.
No, I thought we were going to 5:30. So great.
Was it good?
Yes,
Thank you very much.
Really.
Good.
And good app.
Thank you, buddy.
Oh, yeah,
I
seriously.
appreciate
Talking
it.
about video, and I believe obviously that video is getting more and more important. What's your view on video?
I will tell you that you should read that article because it says it doesn't matter.
Really?
It sure does. I was sort of surprised myself.
Really?
Yeah.
So in terms
Said-
of SEO, it doesn't matter.
As a ranking factor.
But in terms of keeping people
Yes, it's a
Sure,
ranking factor.
sure.
Yes.
Yes. In terms of just something that you would do to get a benefit tomorrow or as soon as it's re-indexed, it's not that. But it is, look, we're passive consumers of media. We're lazy.
Yeah.
And so when you get a video up there, that's what I want. Sorry. That's what I want to do with like the VerbFlex tutorials, is not just to have this blah, but just to show you, Yeah. And then the reason that the text is there is to provide Google with enough context to know what the video's about.
Yeah. So it's probably more video helps those big factors you put up earlier.
Mhm.
Video is a way to drive number of people, how long people stay on the
Absolutely,
site.
sure.
So those are.
There's a lot of great
but
reasons. I'm not poo-pooing,
No, I don't.
Yes.
Lower your
I want,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's something.
And you create a great YouTube channel and all those things. So,
And what about YouTube as well? Because obviously YouTube is massive on search.
yeah, second biggest search.
No, I know. So I was just going to say, does it operate on the same algorithm or a different
I have no
algorithm?
idea.
Or that's what I wonder, because you kind of obviously assume that Google would like you to be on YouTube.
Sure they
own
do.
it,
Yeah.
and that there should be some benefit.
Oh, hell
That
yeah.
they will reward you to some extent if you're on YouTube and doing
I know
things.
if you open a Google, what is it called?
Google Plus,
Yes.
Google
Do you-
Plays,
Yeah,
you have to
Google
list
Plus.
it.
Yeah.
you have
It'll
to,
increase your SEO, no?
yeah, and
Having
also
Google Plus
the
account.
how you.
This says no.
Really?
The article says that it is not a ranking factor.
So this
That they-
factor is just not one of the most important ones. That's
Yeah,
what it's saying,
yeah,
right?
yeah, pretty much. And
Yeah.
it's a newer topic compared to keyword density and all that stuff. Like, it's still a newer topic, but basically what it said in the study is we couldn't find, of all of the sites that we looked at and all the testing we did, we didn't see that it made a difference.
Because it wouldn't make a difference to a normal consumer. Right, so Google are not stupid,
So
right? So
they
will give you a little bit extra because
Yeah.
you're like helping us out.
Sure.
Doing other
I still,
tools, but at the end of the day, just because I'm on Google Plus,
right,
no one's going to care looking at my travel blog whether I'm on Google Plus and YouTube as well.
sure.
So they're going to have to prioritize the factors that make people use search
Yeah.
and stay engaged and,
Yeah.
and do all that stuff.
Mhm.
Even for text for like e-commerce,
it'll be sort of a minimal amount of text
Mhm.
for some of the products.
I know.
But then, as long as your product is a product people want to view, and they're spending time viewing the product, then that will help with the second factor, right? Even though it's not like a text-heavy.
I know. I run in. I mean,
particularly some of those shop pages.
Sure.
The text-heavy thing you shocked me with it because I know from what I know is you need to minimize the text.
That's what I've always.
And in fact, if you look at this site does not look that text.
Read that article.
Text will make people not read it.
Yes, but that's
why.
Ranking with the keywords, I guess it still makes a difference. So make sure you also have video.
Old sites used to be text rich. They used to have novels in them. This has got a nice balance.
It does.
So why would
it kind of
content drive it up? Just because the number of potential words might drive up.
Well, see, we kind of
really read that.
No. See, that's why the impact is up at the top, and look at the text density down below, right? Look at the text density. And there's even stuff that's sort of hidden, not hidden, and so this is for Google. You see the you see the tactic here?
Yeah, I do, but I'm still trying to get used to it because I must admit, the amount of times. You should have a look at some of our sites, some of our pages. It'd be quite interesting because we went from very dense sites with huge amount of text, and then we cut it all back, and it was all.
I mean, if you're as the user, if you see a text wall, you're gone. So the bounce rate goes up. So that's why the balance is you're feeding, like, what's the human being need? Human being needs a lot of visual. Human being needs a passive, right? So you convince the human here, you convince Google here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And it works. And so I'm glad I wasn't even going to show this, but this is a good example.
And I think it's good to see a practical example.
No, this I really, when I saw this go up, I was just so happy. I mean, we had worked, and when this had this result, I was just like, oh my God, because this client is not the number one. By the way, look, do you know Northern Tool? Northern Tool is a huge retailer in the U.S., and I never thought that we were going to leapfrog Northern Tool ever. It used to be that Clean Burn was always that. Clean Burn is the number one maker in this industry. And so it used to be Northern Tool, Clean Burn, and Northern Tool. There used to be this video. And it used to be like sometimes the video and then Northern Tool. And so, we were, like I said, top of page 2.
I mean, it's interesting. I've just done another search for another product, and we're above the vendor.
Yeah.
So whatever we do, it seems to place us.
Right.
I don't know how much we're paying for these keywords. I think they're paying for a fewer number of keywords on a higher tick item. That's what I understand. Because they went in and did some kind of SEO review, and they found that we were putting money everywhere. Words that didn't even line up to a value proposition that we were kind of focused on. So they seem to do that. But it doesn't, from my viewpoint, look at the results.
Yeah.
People making inbound inquiries around product.
Absolutely.
And so what that must point to is the fact that we must have crap content, because people are obviously coming in, finding us, but then they're not going that one step further.
Well, and there too, I mean, we could have a whole